Beginning in the 1930s, a wave of terror swept across Europe, singular in its brutality, its dominance, and its efficiency. Neighbors turned against neighbors, lives shattered. Death, destruction, and hatred carried the day. For those observing the horrors, moments of resistance, of courage, of love and humanity seemed few and far in between. But they were not non-existent. Out of a period of darkness, this is a story of light, of courage, of resistance, of rescue. This is the story of the Danish exception.
The title says it all, Courage to Act. We use this story, we use the facts of this particular history to hopefully be able to model what it looks like to do the right thing, to care about what is right, what is moral. This exhibition came together, took about 2.5, 3 years, opened in October 2023, and is a diversely rich storytelling exhibition that goes into the rescue of the Danish Jews during the Holocaust.
Denmark did something during the war that no other occupied country in Europe did. It protected its Jewish minority. It refused to give it over to the Germans. This was spiritual responsibility. It was spiritual respect. Denmark expected to be overrun. It expected to give in to the Germans, and in fact it did. In April of 1940, it took 16 hours for Germany to conquer Denmark.
Hey, you see those German soldiers? Are they still here? They look like they might come back. As they walked by, one of them smiled at me like we were old friends. I didn't like that. I might have said something I shouldn't have. Everybody agrees no one wants the Germans here. I don't think they realize how much they're bringing us Danes together.
What we wanted to do with this exhibition is really bring it alive and really make it sing. So the way we did that is through all different types of media, of thinking about how could we prompt each other to say, what was it actually like? Here we have an amalgamation of so many different stories, witnesses, and testimonies, and let's see if we can script something that feels contemporary, that feels present, that feels younger in a certain sense.
I go to the Jewish school, and this new kid moved from Austria. He told me that the Germans where he's from would just close the soccer field whenever they felt like it, just because they were Jewish. That could never happen here, could it?
It was a country that decided the only thing that it could do to protect itself from Germany was not to become like Germany.
That's very typical Danish. You know, we're very global, international, and then we have our little strong personality always show.
Services in the synagogue continued, and the Germans agreed to that condition, that the Jewish population of Denmark should be regarded as normal citizens of the country.
The Danes made sure that all the Jews in Denmark, that they would not have to wear the yellow Star of David. And the Jews felt confident that they would be protected by the Danish people. That was extremely unusual in Europe. There was a movement of resistance. It got stronger and stronger, and the Germans didn't like it.
Hey, so you decided to help. Great. So listen, talk is cheap, but it's also very dangerous. Don't tell your parents what you're up to. Don't brag to your friends. We don't talk, we act.
The underground movement has, with increasing strength, hampered the Germans by using their most effective weapon, sabotage.
During Second World War, what we saw was not acceptable for Danes. It was against our belief in what is right and wrong. We acted. We did what human beings are supposed to do.
Trains carrying goods to Germany were derailed. Factories working for the enemy were burned to the ground. And German countermeasures were met with strikes all over the country.
The artist illustrator that we worked with is named Sveta Dorosheva. She's Ukrainian-born, a descendant of a Holocaust survivor, and is based in Israel. One example I'm thinking of, our illustrator depicted a cross-section of a Copenhagen apartment building where on various floors of this apartment building, people are engaged in all different types of resistance activity. Some are producing an underground newspaper, some are preparing to run that newspaper out to friends, some are listening to the radio. And it's a wonderful opportunity to dive into probably 12 different scenes, all while explaining this really heady moment of active resistance.
The Germans said we've had enough, and therefore we are going to not only run this country the way we want to, but we're also going to round up the Jews.
It was not a happy moment, I can tell you. And that meant that the Germans could now do with the Danish Jews as they had done with Jews in all the other European countries they had conquered. Their plan was to arrest us and to deport us to the concentration camps. My father was a rabbi, and he was one of the leaders that got the warning. So the next morning there was a special service in the synagogue. My father's message was short and clear. Number one, don't be at home on Friday night. Number two, pass the message on.
We wanted the spaces we created to evoke the emotion of what it could have been like to be part of this.
I was a boy of 14, and I couldn't understand that we had to leave home. I didn't know what it meant to go into hiding.
What do you take with you when you only have 10 minutes to pack? You get to kind of go on this trip with them.
Sweden made clear to the Danes that it would accept the Jews who were escaping. The only way to get there was by boat. And fishermen's boats were the most accessible.
It was not a pleasant tour. Nobody promised us that. But there were no compartments. We were lying where normally the fish was lying, on the bottom of the boat.
The journey lasted many hours because the captain tried to avoid the Germans. We were sure we were going to die because we were so sick.
And the Baltic Sea is quite a sea. So it was quite natural, I would say, that some of the people on the boat were seasick.
As soon as the boat started, the Germans came running. They jumped on board and wanted to see the papers of the boat and wanted to investigate things.
You get a sense of how dangerous it was to be on the water, and especially at night.
The time felt so long. There was really many chances that I should have ended my life on the bottom of that sea.
Most of those who were engaged in this campaign to protect the Jews were non-Jews. The fishermen were not Jews.
It's based on humanity. It's based on being a good person. And that you, as a citizen, have to help that other citizen.
"450 Jews were arrested, were not sufficiently informed, were not lucky, were caught, and they were sent to Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt was a concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. The circumstances were awful. It was meant to isolate them, capture them, make them miserable, and from all except for the Danish Jews, as a way station to the east.
What I admire so much about the illustrations is just how much emotion they are able to contain. You see on each individual face just how painful, just how terrifying that could have been.
Part of that story is that the Danes who negotiated with the Germans over the deportation negotiated in a way that no Jew would be sent from Theresienstadt to the death camp. And the Danish people, through the government, provided food and clothing and vitamins for the Jews in the concentration camp so that they could survive, which is something no other country did. It was absolutely unique.
Another thing I love in the exhibition is that next to some of these really large-scale illustrations that we've talked about are blown-up photographic murals. The one that comes to mind is in the small gallery that details the relief, the jubilation, the salvation of the end of the war, when Jews from Denmark are able to return from Sweden to Denmark. They come back in a series of ferry boats, dressed in their very best, to adoring crowds who wait for them in Denmark, standing on the dock and waving and saying, "Welcome home."
We were among the first to come back,
and people were so awfully nice. The way we were received was extraordinary.
You know, Bent Melchior always said it's not unusual for Jews to be asked to leave, but it's really unusual for them to be welcomed back. And the Danes welcomed back the Jews.
Over 95% of the population of Jews of Denmark were saved in this way. This was an extraordinary exception.
You cannot describe the kind of feeling that fills you at that time. You sometimes have dreams. Under rare circumstances, dreams come through.
Judy Glickman-Lauder's photographs were made in the early 1990s in anticipation of the 50th anniversary of the Danish rescue, which would have been 1993.
50 years after the rescue, Judy went to Denmark, and she photographed the people and the places, the rescuers and the Jews who were rescued, and brought back a body of work which is extraordinary. And this documentation, the photographic documentation of the Danish story, through the quality of her work, through the excellence of her photographic eye, brings those people to us through very, very beautiful photographs. We know that these people risked their lives in order to save Jews.
This exhibit is really kind of the soul of my work. I went to Auschwitz and Birkenau in 1988. What I saw, the presence of evil and the absence of people, and to photograph resistance people was a breath of fresh air.
The very strong pictures, I feel humanity. I feel a common person, a Danish citizen who felt the need to do something for his fellow citizens. And then I see something very strong in his face, a commitment.
Some of my favorite photographs of hers are actually the landscapes. So she turns her camera to what are ultimately fairly mundane spaces, an attic, a church, a harbor. And when you know how charged they are with history, you really get a sort of shiver down your spine when you see the way that she portrays these spaces. I think particularly when you leave this exhibition, which again is so focused on the passage over water from extreme danger into safety, to emerge into what is usually the light and to see both that expanse of water before you and the Statue of Liberty. It really just reiterates what we hope the exhibition will inspire.
We can't be bystanders for evil to triumph. All it takes is enough good people to do nothing. The Danes showed moral courage. We all need to learn from that.
In Danish, it's called næstekærlighed. It's the love of other people. And acting when something is happening to a fellow global citizen. And that we have to help each other in difficult times.